Howdy ho, folks. Jim Hightower here. Thanks to joining us for another Hightower Lowdown. Hightower Lowdown, a happy hour right here on Facebook Live and with Free Speech TV as well. Streaming out across America, across the globe, across the cosmos, and beyond. And we're anxious to come from my table right here in Austin, Texas, to you and to hear from you, whether you're in Brooklyn, New York, or Bug Tussle, Oklahoma. You are one of us, and we want to hear from you. And our flame-haired impresario Deanna Zant is awaiting your calls and your comments and your questions that you might have. So do not hesitate to join us. We're going to take you with us today to Death Alley. Death Alley, not Valley. Death Alley, which is a place in southeast Louisiana. And we're going to track a story that involves big oil, involves trillions of nurdles. Nurdles, we'll explain that later. It involves a notorious Taiwanese profiteer. It involves your toothbrush. It involves a slave cemetery and a feisty group of small dogs. We'll fill all that in for you. Believe it or not, it is a story of hope. And to start the story, let's start at the start. And that would be with Sharon Lavigne. Sharon Lavigne, thank you so much for joining us and being a part of the Hightower Happy Hour Lowdown here tonight. Sharon comes to us from her home in St. James Parish, Louisiana. Hello, Sharon.
Hello. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing better seeing you here and
Okay.
understanding the great fight that you're a part of. Sharon is a retired special education teacher in the community there, and now has become in the last couple of years almost unexpectedly and I would dare say without her full agreement to do it to start with, an environmental activist, environmental justice activist. And that is the theme that we're talking about tonight is to become an activist, to make a difference in a big scale. You don't really have to be anybody but yourself. You just got to stand up. And that's what Sharon Lavigne has done. And she heads an organization called Rise St. James. Uh, Sharon, why did you and a group of others in your community in St. James Parish, which is just outside of New Orleans and between New Orleans and Baton Rouge, Louisiana, why did you come together in something called Rise St. James?
Well, in 2018, when our governor, John Bell Edward, approved Formosa Plastics to come into my neighborhood, that's what started this fight.
Formosa Plastics, and that is the Taiwanese profiteer, one of the richest, I think, corporation, largest
Mhm.
corporation in Taiwan, but is all over the United States of America as well. And it is a plastics corporation, which does not mean it's made of plastic; it is made of money, uh, and
Yes,
and it makes that money by
yes,
making the basic substance of plastics
yes,
and that turns out to be a little bit of a toxic substance, doesn't it, Sharon?
yes, it is.
Tell us
Uh,
about it.
it,
You've
it-
experienced it, right, in the last few
oh,
years,
the
your own
last,
family.
yes, but in St. James we have 12 in my district. In St. James Parish we have 7 districts. And the fifth district and the fourth district are the ones that get these industries to come in. And so we have 12 in my district, and we're already sick and we're already dying. So if Formosa Plastic come into St. James in the fifth district, they're going to bring 14 plants inside of the big complex.
Mm.
We will not be able to breathe the air and we will die.
And we're talking about not a few plants, and I drew out a little map that I think Deanna will put on the screen there for us.
Mhm.
Between Baton Rouge and New Orleans is about 80 miles, and in that 80 miles there are 140 refineries and petrochemical plants. Uh,
Yes,
that's enough for anybody. That is, in
yes.
fact, about what 1.5 per mile. I think it works out to.
Mhm.
And here comes Formosa wanting to build the largest ever in that area
Yes.
that will dramatically increase pollution, almost like a futuristic horror movie. And
Hmm.
give us some sense of the scale, Sharon. I've seen Formosa Plastics here in Texas. They've got a
Hmm.
plant down on the Gulf Coast and Seadrift, Texas,
Hmm.
Matagorda Bay down there, and it's like Manhattan Island. I mean, it just goes on forever and ever and ever. And instead of high-rise buildings, it's got these towers and pipelines and stuff running together, making stuff, chemicals, making ethylene, benzene, formaldehyde, propylene. Those things are sound nasty, are they?
Yes, they are nasty. They are. And if we breathe too much of it, we're not going to be able to live. So we don't want it in St. James. We want it to go somewhere else. Just like I told the governor, if this plant is so much better for the state, and the plant will bring revenues in for the state, why not put it in his hometown?
There you go. Or put it in the hometown of the investors and
Of the investors.
of
That's
that
right.
corporation who are profiting from it.
That's right.
They always say, corporations are big now, even after the invasion of the U.S. Capitol. They're all rushing out to say, "Well, we're all in this together." Well, no, we're not. You're setting up in your towers of money.
That's
You're
right.
setting up in your enclaves. You're
That's
not,
right.
and you don't live in St. James Parish. You
Thank
draw
you.
money from St. James Parish
Yes,
by
that's right.
poisoning the people there.
That's
And
right.
why is it called Death Alley?
Because it's like a death sentence. It's like a death sentence. I told the people, it's just like we are living on death row. We're gonna die one at a time if Formosa come in here. Because
Now,
because we're already dying from the ones we have in here. So if Formosa come, they're gonna finish us off.
and that's not a theory. Death. You
That's
know
right.
people, right?
That's right. I know people that died
In your own family,
in my own family, in my own community. I have family members with cancer as we speak right now.
your
Yes.
husband,
No, my brothers. I have two
your
brothers.
brother. All
Cancer.
right. All right.
Yes.
This is this is a reality that is not about environmental theory. It is not about just something on a piece of paper. This is real life,
This is real life.
and it's happening not just in St. James Parish. I imagine our viewers, our participants here tonight, all across America, have had their own experience with some form of this, not with the extreme concentration that is here. Now, why, Sharon, would there be such a concentration? Why would there be 140 petrochemical plants and refineries in an 80-mile stretch right along the Mississippi River? Why particularly this place?
Because we are black and we're poor. And they thought we wasn't gonna speak up. And we did. It's time for someone to speak up. And we did speak up.
Let's go to that. You were sensing this, seeing friends and neighbors and family people get sick and even die because of the air and because of the water.
Yes.
And you began to look around and people said, well, there's nothing we can do about it. I mean, there it is. That the powers that be have said, well, this is going to bring us jobs. This is going to bring prosperity to St. James Parish. But prosperity doesn't matter a whole lot if you're
That's right.
dying
If you're dying, that's right. That's
from that
right.
prosperity if it's
That's
killing
right.
you.
That's right.
And you called a meeting. You stood up. Now let's get straight. You are not some sort of maniacal environmental activist
No,
uh,
no, no, no.
who's got a long history of involvement. You are a
Nope.
school teacher.
School
Eh,
teacher, quiet person. I mind my own business. Didn't worry about anything. I thought I was living a good life until I
There you go.
started to get sick, you know.
Yeah.
And when I heard about Formosa, that's what brought my attention because we have other industries here. And I went to this meeting and I started to hear about the other industries, and they didn't do anything about it. And they said it was nothing we could do about it because the politicians going to vote it in. There's nothing you could do about it. In my mind, there's something you could do about anything. You
Yeah.
could stop anything if you put your mind to it.
Yeah.
And just like
Can't
I
do
said,
can't
Formosa's
do
not
is not
coming
an
here.
American
That's
can't
right.
do is not
It's,
an American trait.
that's not in
And
my
and
vocabulary. Can't.
and
No.
and you stood up by convening a meeting first,
Yes. Yes.
10 people in
Yes.
your living room.
Yes. Yes.
Uh, this is a county, a parish, which is a
Yes.
county. The rest of the country would call it a county, but it's a
Yeah, I
parish,
know.
a
Mhm.
county of about 21,000
People.
people,
That's right.
and with 140, well, no, with 30 something plants in this county alone.
Yes, that's right.
So that's what's that one plant for every 600 or so people
People. Mhm.
there. So you're very lucky you got your own plant
Yes.
to poison you. So
Yes.
there you are,
Mhm.
and you convene a meeting.
Yes.
10 show up,
Mhm.
and you do a little march to a local park, and that
Yes.
draws some attention. And then the next meeting, you get 20 people,
20
and
people.
you had to move to your garage. So you had a meeting in your garage. Is that
Yes,
right?
yes, yes, that's right.
See, all I'm saying to you is that this is what progress is. This is what activism is. It's not
Mhm.
not some big organization. It's not some big amount of money or somebody funding this or that. It's ordinary people
Yes.
meeting in a garage to say we're being killed by these corporate greed heads,
Yes,
and
yes.
maybe we ought to speak up
Mhm.
and do something about it. And
Yes.
that led to the formation of what you call Rise
Rise
St.
St. James.
James.
Yes.
And Rise has a faith meaning to it too, doesn't it? I mean, it
It's
has
a
a
faith-based,
connotation of it.
yeah, it's a
You know,
faith-based organization because the idea came from God. So that's why we call it faith-based.
and we're and then that has expanded to confrontations with the powers that be, and confronting this entity. And here comes Formosa Plastics Corporation from Taiwan with its lobbyists in Washington, in Baton Rouge, capital of Louisiana, and elsewhere, saying we want to put in a plant that will triple the amount of pollution uh, coming out of the already existing 140 contaminating entities that are there. And I want our folks to understand who've never driven by one of these things or seen one thing. This is not 140 mom and pop shops, up along the river or down a block. These are huge entities. Formosa's plant proposes about 4 square miles containing not one plant, but as Sharon indicated, 14 plants that will emit these benzene, ethylenes, propylenes, and other enes. Uh,
Mhm.
and and you're and you as a taxpayer uh, through the state committed $1.5 billion in subsidies to
Mhm.
bring Formosa Plastics to you, uh, and without your knowledge, I don't mean you personally, Sharon, but the community,
Mhm.
they changed the zoning requirements in your county from
Yes.
what to what?
They changed it from residential to future industrial.
Future industry,
Future industrial.
making plastics,
Yes.
and this has led to a tremendous movement of within it's basically been 2 years, right? The
2 years.
two and a half
2
years
years.
that
Mhm.
you folks have been struggling there to battle it. And here's the good news: you're making strides. You haven't stopped it,
No.
but one you already in 2019 caused one foreign entity
Mhm.
from opening a plastics or a petrochemical facility
Mhm.
in your community, something called Wanwa.
One.
Uh,
Mhm.
Wanwa. All right.
Mhm.
And then you just recently, because of y'all's activism, you got a court ruling to stall at least or change the permit, that
Mhm.
permit that said that they could just go ahead and do it
Yes.
to to make a difference.
Hmm.
So this is what I mean by small dogs. You know, uh, those who say, "Well, you're too small to fight the big guys." Well, even the smallest dog can lift its leg on the biggest building.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
true.
and,
Hadn't thought of it
and
like that. That's true.
and and that's exactly what y'all are
Okay.
doing. You can
Okay.
stand up and you can make a difference. And
Okay.
but you're not alone in this fight, and that's the
I
beauty of
know.
what y'all
I know.
did.
Yeah.
You started on your side of the river.
Hmm.
This is the Mississippi River,
Yes.
uh, and uh, and you, as I understand it, you and a minister friend of yours climbed up on the levee and looked over across the other side, and you found some allies over there.
Yes. Yes. Oh, yes. We sure did. Yes. We have a priest over there on the East Bank. That's on board with us,
Yeah.
and we have some
So
citizens over there too. That's on board
so
with us.
so you
Yeah.
just begin to stand up and you say, well, we're being run over, and they say, well, God, actually, we're being run over too. Yeah, and
That's
then
right.
maybe you
Yeah.
stand up together and fight
Yes.
back. But you also had allies come in, and we want to bring one of your great friends and co-fighters in with this, Anne Rolfes. Anne uh, is out of Louisiana originally, went off to, of all places, Nigeria, and collaborating with communities there to fight oil companies and what they were doing over there. Then returned to Louisiana back in about 2000 and collaborated with women mostly all along what is known as Cancer Alley to form the Louisiana Bucket Brigade. That is a great name. That is an American revolutionary name, I dare say. Anne Rolfes, thank you for being with us as well.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
And we find you in your home in New Orleans. Is that correct?
That's right, in here in New Orleans.
Wonderful. And you're having a libation with us tonight. We are in
Oh
happy hour.
yeah, absolutely. Wouldn't miss it, right? Yeah, that was called a
Okay,
happy hour, so here I
that's
am.
it.
Not going to be
That's it.
left out.
Yeah, right. And Sharon's got hers too, by the way. I
Yes.
didn't
Got
mention
mine.
that.
It's
There you
right
go.
here.
See, we are in happy hour. So
Mhm.
pop a cool one and join us here in this hot conversation. Uh, okay, and what the hell is the Bucket Brigade?
The Bucket Brigade supports communities like Sharon's here in Louisiana that are facing some sort of industrial monster. So sometimes it's an oil refinery that already exists and is choking out a neighborhood. In this case, it's one of the world's largest plastics plants that had made the bad idea to try to move in next to Sharon Lavigne and her community.
And when you say next to, you literally mean that. There,
Mhm.
as I understand it, is this right that the plant would be a mile from a school?
Yes. Yes.
A mile from a school, a mile and 2 miles from your own home, right, Sharon?
Yes. That's right.
I mean, this is not some entity sitting out there.
Hmm.
This is a polluting facility. In
Yes.
fact, 14 plants sitting on 4 square miles that they're talking about
Hmm.
building there in order to make the basic ingredient of plastics, which end up being people's the water bottles and soda bottles and stuff that you buy. It's ended up being cigarette filters. It's in particularly in the whole throwaway economy, including your toothbrush. You get up in the
Hmm.
morning and first thing you do is what? You shove a piece of plastic in your mouth to brush your teeth. Now, until the 1930s, their uh, toothbrushes were natural eh, substances. They were made of wood and bristles and etc. But since the 1930s, nearly all of them are plastic. And since the 1930s, nearly every single one of them that we have thrown away still exists. It's in the land, it's in the water. So those of you who think, well, that's down in Louisiana, I don't know about that. No, it's come home to you now.
Hmm.
And by the way, the substance used to make the plastic comes from fracking. So those of you in upstate New York and those of you in Pennsylvania, in Appalachia, in in Southeast Texas and Southwest Texas and Colorado and elsewhere who know the fracking situation and what that's doing to it. You're connected to Sharon, and you're connected to Anne. Now, Anne, I have to say to our viewers and our cohorts on the show here tonight, Anne, you're a terrorist, and an acknowledged terrorist. I mean, you have been confronted by the law as being a terrorist. Tell us about your terrorist activity, Anne. We want to
Yeah,
hear it.
well, in the fall of 2019, the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality was contemplating granting Formosa Plastics an air permit. And it seemed, so that they're going through papers, they're trying to figure this out. Meanwhile, in the state of Texas, Diane Wilson and her friends had won what is the largest settlement in Clean Water Act history, $50 million against the same company, Formosa Plastic. And we know our state. We know that they were going to pretend that that wasn't happening. And so it seemed really important to us to make sure that our Department of Environmental Quality understood what happened in Texas and to make it very publicly known that this same company that wanted to go and destroy Sharon's community had just had to cough up $50 million in a settlement. And so, thanks to Diane, who gave us all the evidence from the trial, we trucked all the plastic that they have gathered up from the bays and waterways of Texas, a plastic that Formosa has spilled, and we brought it to Louisiana. We had a festival. We brought it to the Department of Environmental Quality. We also delivered some to the homes of lobbyists here in Louisiana, and that is where the terrorism. I was
Ah,
charged with being a terrorist for simply delivering Formosa's own pollution back to chemical executives.
now that
So
pollution
happily, the
has.
charges weren't even accepted by the district attorney. Even the district attorney could see they were ludicrous, but not before, we had to be tied up in the court system for about six
Right,
months.
right. And that pollution has
Mhm.
has a cute name, almost a
Yes.
cartoonish name. You just
Yes.
could be in a children's book. Nurdles. They call it nurdles, which are what? You have some right there, don't you?
Have some right here. Again, these are the ones from Texas. If they look dirty, it's because Diane and her friends, spend time in kayaks and boats gathering up these tiny plastic particles. I'm just going to open the bag and pull out a couple. But yeah, they spent a lot of money on PR to come up with a friendly sounding name, right? Of Nurdles. So if you can see, I don't know if you can see, but that's it. And you
Looks
see
like black
dirty.
eyed peas.
Yeah. Yeah, and it ends up in the belly of catfish and
Right.
shrimp and everything else. And so
Yeah.
to people in Louisiana who may not think that they care about anything, we just say, well, do you like shrimp? Do you like catfish? Because you're about to have plastic catfish. So
Right.
I think almost
Yeah.
everybody can agree that that's not something that we want.
And we were lucky to have Diane Wilson on our Hightower Lowdown happy hour a few months ago, talking about what uh, the Formosa Plastics had done to the fishing industry. Diane is the fifth generation fisherwoman down on the Gulf Bays in Texas, and she led the fight for 30, 40 years down there to finally develop what Anne is telling us, that there was a federal judge who said, no, you can't do this. This is pollution, and you have been doing it systematic for generations, and you're going to pay for it. And $50 million is not much for a huge multi-billion-dollar giant like Formosa Plastic, but it set a precedent that now carries into Louisiana and is going to carry on into other parts of our country. And also, the judge did something else. He said that the $50 million is going to be used for mitigation of the environmental contamination that's happened there, but it is also going to go to form a cooperative of fisher people in that area who were driven out of business by this pollution over the years. And then he did another thing, which is to say, and the monitor of whether you're complying, you Formosa Plastic are complying with this is not going to be you, and it's not going to be the state agency. It is going to be the environmental groups to take watch over. That is a huge change right there. Again, I'm tracing back to the garage of Sharon Lavigne, uh, that this is where it comes from, and that it builds up to big change and the possibility of fundamental reform all across our country. Uh, and and these and as a Sharon as a minister at one event that y'all did, I think on the Mississippi River, and that involved a destruction that Formosa Plastic didn't mention when they applied for their permit, which was that they were going to ignore the existence of and likely destroy the graves of former enslaved people in Louisiana. Because get this, the place Formosa wants to build its plastic factory in St. James Parish is a former plantation. Tell us about that.
Well, well, we found out about the grave site, and then we brought it. Rise St. James brought it to the attention of the parish council members. They didn't know about the grave site, and Formosa knew 17 months prior to us bringing it out to the parish council. Um, we knew it was a plantation, and we did our little research, and we got in contact with an archaeologist, and we found out there are 3 grave sites on that property.
Mm.
But the one we went by was the Buena Vista, and we had a Juneteenth over there last year in June, and we had an All Saints Day ceremony on October 10th with the Bishop of Baton Rouge. He was
Mm-hmm.
there,
Mm-hmm.
and the other ministers were there. We had 5 ministers, and we had 2 nuns out there with us, and it was wonderful. And we plan on having another event next month on that site.
You just got to keep pushing, don't you?
Yes, we sure do.
Well, the interesting thing again, Formosa will do ads and politicians will stand up and they say, well, we're all in this together. But no, they don't live there.
They don't. No.
We're not all in this together. They don't
No,
visit
not.
there even.
Nope. They don't.
uh, and that's and again, this is horrific in terms of what's happening in St. James Parish, but it's not unique. All across the country, people are standing up to this and facing this, and they can take strength from what y'all are offering to us here, and we can take strength in that. What came out of your garage, uh, developed over a couple of years into a real movement there. It's beginning to win some fights in Louisiana, and they're connected to Texas. And then today, Texas is connected to Pennsylvania and the fracking fields that are there. And then you expand it on to the other horrors that are going on, the mountaintop removal and the other uh, just corporate. Um, I don't know what to say about it, but I mean the corporate thuggery that is taking place. Deanna, I understand we got some folks want to visit with us and offer some comments. Let's hear it.
Holy cow, Hightower. We have so many people showing y'all so much love. First of all, mad shout out because Diane Wilson is here with us tonight in
All
the
right,
comments.
Diane.
Everybody say hi to Diane.
Hi, Diane.
Been filling folks in the comments here on a lot of stuff that's going on. We've got folks also from New Orleans, Houston. We got Central Upstate New York. That would be my mom. She's awesome. Southeastern Ohio, Columbus, Nebraska. We got New Jersey in the house. That's my neck of the woods. I'm in Brooklyn and Louisville, Kentucky, all over the place. I love hearing. We always love hearing from where y'all are from. So a couple of things that have come up in the chat are that first of all, what is the status of Formosa now? There's rumors that it's been stalled or stopped, or we don't really know. And also, what are some of the actions that our viewers can take
Mm,
to support this?
there you go. Good. Jump in.
Can?
Yeah, the status is that the permits, Formosa needs two permits, well, a lot of permits, but two overall permits in order to operate. One is a federal permit from the Army Corps of Engineers, and that actually the Army Corps of Engineers took it back. We were going to court, and then they must have realized that the permit was too weak and pathetic because it was to defend in court. And so they said to the judge, never mind, let's not go to court. We want it back. And so it's being reconsidered by the Army Corps of Engineers as we speak. And we will do our best, of course, to make sure that they make the right decision this time and deny that permit. And then in really what was a beautiful moment on the other permit, which is an air permit, a state judge, and Sharon can speak to this, a state judge spoke really beautifully and very frankly about the environmental racism at play, about the fact that the Department of Environmental Quality was simply going through the motions and pretending, and she didn't use the word pretending, but she said they weren't doing a real analysis on the unfair burden on the Black. And Sharon and I were both in that court hearing over Zoom.
Yes.
And when you're doing that, you don't have to have the decorum that you have in court. So Sharon's doing like this when the judge is talking. It was just great. It was great. And
Little
Sharon, I don't know if
rowdy.
you want to talk about that, but to hear the judge
Yes.
say those things
Yes.
was really a great moment in this whole experience.
Yeah, describe that for us, Sharon. That's great.
Yes.
Your own rowdiness. Get
Yes.
into that too.
Yeah, when the judge spoke about it was racism, and she also said the permit was obsolete. To send them back to the drawing board. So in my opinion, they thought that we wouldn't challenge their permit. So they just put whatever they wanted in there. And when the judge saw that, the judge told them, to go back because it was obsolete. And it was a wonderful feeling when the judge made that. Ooh, I was so happy.
Yeah, right.
I
Well,
was singing my song, "Victory
It's
is
true.
mine."
right.
And so they're not supposed to be building right now. Now we
No.
know how these guys are. So of course, as soon as the judge, the state judge said, I'm sending the permit back. You stalled for now. They said, oh, but we're finished. We're really working on some things that are meant to improve the whole community, which we know, of course, is not true.
Right.
And so they're actually they have they've still been out there to some degree widening a highway and doing some work.
Yeah.
And Sharon and her neighbors are doing a good job of watching them
Mhm.
because we know these guys. We have to document and follow them because we know how they operate. That even though at both the federal level and the state level they have been told to stop, we know them all too well that they are very likely to keep going unless we pay attention and stay vigilant.
Yes.
Well, they don't hire those lobbyists for nothing.
Exactly.
And that's the importance of people like you, Anne, who bring your expertise and bring the legal fight to these people because Lily Tomlin once said, no matter how cynical you get, it's almost impossible to keep up, because they're always looking for the end run or looking to go
Absolutely.
underneath or around or above. And it really is, I'm sorry to say, both political parties, one worse than another. But nonetheless, neither political party officials can be counted on unless we stand up
Mhm.
and give them the backbone that they've got to have to represent us and to have judges like this, like you're talking about. But fundamentally, it gets back to us doing it at the grassroots level.
Look, there's no court case for her to comment on if Sharon doesn't form Rise St. James, right? I mean, none of this
I agree.
happens. And one thing that I think the phrase that we should bring in here is that we have been told, and Sharon has been told ad nauseum, that it's a done deal, right? Isn't that the
Yes.
phrase that we heard again
Yes.
and again?
Mhm.
Done deal. There's nothing you can do about it.
That's right.
Of course,
And
Right.
I'm sure our viewers and participants all across the country, as DZ was pointing out, they've all heard that same phrase. Well, it's a done deal. You can't fight it.
That's right.
But I, you know, I came up in Texas politics, and I can tell you that battling the bastards is just about as much fun as you can have with your clothes on. So, so do not hesitate to get out there and join Sharon and join Anne in this kind of fight, because it makes a difference. It
Yeah,
does make
it does.
change
It
that we've
does.
got to have, and then it adds up to a big reform for humankind here and around the world, because this does. Anne, you were in Nigeria, I believe it was, and guess what? The plastics industry is doing now. By plastics industry, I'm talking about Exxon, Shell, Chevron, the major big oil giants are pushing an increase in plastic manufacturing in our country, not to make stuff that we will throw away, but to ship around the world. This is an export industry now, and they want to increase the amount of plastics we're generating by 1/3 in the next couple of years. We don't know what to do with the plastic we now have.
That's
we
right.
we can't dispose of it. Those old sneakers you've got in the back of your closet, they're going to end up in a landfill or in a waterway somewhere. So the problem is not what to do with the waste. The problem is plastic,
Mhm.
and we've got to
Plastic.
address the fact that plastic has got to end. This is not, it doesn't mean we have to abandon the workers who are involved in that industry. We've got to create real new jobs and do that as a part of moving from plastics to alternatives in our society. But what they want to do with that waste, and you would not be surprised to know that they're targeting Kenya in Africa, that Kenya is to be their new waste hub for the world's global plastic, and they're using. They can't get that passed in the Kenyan parliament or Congress, so they're using a free trade. They're trying to create a free trade agreement that will ban the people of Kenya from enacting their own laws to prohibit this trash from coming
Mhm.
into their country. So this is the scope of what we're dealing with, but it all comes back to that garage in St. James Parish, Louisiana. So keep fighting, folks. We're in it for the long haul. Thank you
Okay.
so much, Sharon and Anne, for being
Welcome.
with us. But thank you more importantly for the terrific work that you're doing. It's a joy to be on the earth with you.
Same here. Thank y'all for
Yes,
having us on.
it's a joy to be with you too.
Bye bye.
I really enjoyed it.
Good. Me too. Yeah.
Let's have a
Yeah.
drink. Let's
Yeah,
drink to that.
yeah. Thanks.
To us.